The screen went black for a heartbeat. Then Donald Trump's voice boomed across every living room in America. Ibrahim Traoré is a disgrace. The words hit like a thunderclap. Ibrahim sat frozen in his office in Ouagadougou, the smell of strong coffee still lingering from his morning cup. His heart raced, pounding against his chest like a drum. He had expected criticism, but this was a live TV smear designed to humiliate him. His phone exploded with messages from allies, supporters, and strangers. Each ping made his stomach tighten. He closed his eyes, struggling to breathe. But Ibrahim Traoré was not a man to crumble. His mind sharpened. Every insult, every accusation, fueled a resolve deep in his bones. He would not let lies define him. Not today. In New York, the courtroom was already buzzing. Legal teams whispered, papers shuffled, cameras zoomed in, and an unexpected figure appeared. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. Known for her unflinching fairness, her presence sent a shiver through the media circus. Even Trump, sipping his coffee, felt a flicker of unease. Ibrahim exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. The battle wasn't over. It was only beginning. And the world was about to watch him strike back in a way no one expected. The following morning, Ibrahim walked into the courthouse, every step echoing like a drumbeat of destiny. Reporters shouted questions, flashes of cameras stung his eyes, but he held his head high. Every step felt heavy, yet every step reminded him of his purpose: justice. Trump, sitting smugly at the defense table, smirked. "You'll never win," he muttered under his breath. But Ibrahim's calm, steady gaze met his. He had faced insurgents, political pressure, and betrayals. A live TV smear was nothing. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson entered the room. Her presence demanded attention. She scanned the courtroom with piercing eyes, silent but commanding. Even Trump seemed momentarily unsettled, as if realizing this would not be an easy fight. The first witnesses were called. Their testimonies revealed contradictions in Trump's claims, each one sharpening Ibrahim's case like a knife. A small unexpected sound, a paper tearing, made everyone jump. It was the moment the tide shifted. Suddenly, the arrogance in Trump's posture faltered, replaced by a flash of panic. Outside, the crowd murmured in disbelief. Ibrahim's heart beat steadily, but a strange tension hung in the air. He had begun to fight back, but even he didn't know what Ketanji would do next. By mid-afternoon, the courtroom was thick with tension. Trump's team had presented their evidence, but every argument seemed to backfire. Ibrahim's legal team remained composed, feeding off his quiet strength. His eyes, calm but piercing, followed every move. Then Ketanji spoke. Her voice, firm and unwavering, cut through the noise. Truth matters more than spectacle. The courtroom fell silent, as if the words had frozen time. Trump shifted in his seat, a bead of sweat tracing his temple. A sudden whisper came from the gallery, a journalist noting an inconsistency in one of Trump's claims. Ibrahim's pulse quickened, not from fear, but from hope. The balance was shifting. The man who had tried to humiliate him on live television now squirmed under the weight of scrutiny. Outside, the air was heavy with tension and anticipation. Supporters of Ibrahim held their breath, the scent of rain mingling with the dust of the city streets. Every second felt like an eternity, every look exchanged in the courtroom charged with emotion. As Ketanji prepared to announce a critical ruling, a hush fell. The question everyone feared, what would this decision mean for Ibrahim, hung in the air like a storm ready to break. The world waited, hearts in throats. The gavel hit the table. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. Ketanji Brown Jackson's eyes scanned the courtroom, locking briefly on Trump, who shifted uneasily. "We will proceed carefully," she said, her voice steady but heavy with authority. Ibrahim felt a strange surge of calm. He had been ready for this moment his whole life, but the tension was almost suffocating. Every whisper, every shuffle of papers, seemed louder than a thunderclap. Then, unexpectedly, Trump's face changed. The usual arrogance faltered. A flash of anger, but underneath, something else. A flicker of fear. It was subtle, almost human. Ibrahim noticed it, and for the first time, he saw vulnerability in the man who had tried to destroy his reputation. A witness was called, a former associate of Trump, who had remained silent until now. The room smelled faintly of coffee and old wood. Their testimony contradicted everything Trump had said on live TV, unraveling his carefully built narrative. The camera zoomed in on Trump's reaction, lips tightening, eyes darting, jaw clenched. Ibrahim's heart pounded, but not from fear. Hope surged through him. He could almost hear the collective heartbeat of everyone watching the broadcast. Could this be the moment that would turn the tide completely? The day dragged on, each hour a slow burn of suspense. Trump's legal team scrambled, papers rustling like nervous whispers, but Ketanji remained unshaken. Ibrahim felt a strange clarity, a deep sense that justice was near, yet the storm wasn't over. Suddenly a sharp sound echoed. A phone dropped in the back row. Every eye turned. Trump flinched visibly, his composure cracking for the first time. The crowd held its breath. The unexpected disruption reminded everyone that nothing in this courtroom was predictable. Then a small twist. A private conversation Ibrahim had had with a journalist earlier surfaced. A recording revealed Trump's intentions to smear him before the live broadcast. The courtroom gasped. Even the reporters, who had followed Trump for decades, seemed stunned. Ibrahim's face remained calm, but inside, a surge of vindication and relief coursed through him. Ketanji's gaze softened slightly toward him, acknowledging his courage. Trump's smirk had vanished, replaced by a growing unease. Outside, the streets were alive with whispers and murmurs. The air smelled like rain on concrete, charged with suspense. Everyone watching knew one thing: the climax was close, and the next move would shock the world. By late afternoon, tension in the courtroom was unbearable. Every footstep, every scribble of a pen, felt amplified. Trump's bravado had nearly evaporated. He looked like a man caught in a trap of his own making. Ibrahim's team presented the final evidence, a series of messages and video clips that left no room for doubt. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath. Even the air felt heavier, almost electric, charged with anticipation and fear. Then, Ketanji leaned forward, her voice calm but cutting. Intent matters, and evidence of deliberate misinformation changes everything. Trump's face paled. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. For the first time, he was silent under scrutiny. Ibrahim felt an unexpected tremor of emotion, a mix of triumph, relief, and lingering fear. Could it be that justice was finally within reach? His supporters outside cheered quietly, careful not to break the spell of tension inside. And then, just as the room settled, a clerk whispered something to Ketanji, making her eyes widen. Everyone froze. A hush fell over the courtroom as Ketanji Brown Jackson motioned for everyone to rise. The clerk's whispered revelation had shaken the room. A previously unseen contract, time-stamped days before Trump's TV attack, exposed clear intent to harm Ibrahim's reputation. Trump's usual confidence wavered. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for his notes. A faint metallic scent hung in the air, nervous sweat mingling with polished wood. Every journalist leaned forward, sensing the shift. Ibrahim's heart raced, but he remained composed. For years, he had faced crises far deadlier than media attacks. Now, he drew strength from the knowledge that the truth was on his side. The courtroom cameras captured his calm gaze, unflinching, even as Trump's face twitched with panic. Then, a surprising moment. Trump's legal lead whispered something urgently to him. For a brief instant, the usually untouchable mogul seemed small, vulnerable. A subtle quiver in his jaw, a fleeting shadow of fear. Ibrahim felt a pang of sympathy, quickly buried under determination. Ketanji's voice broke the tension. "We will review this evidence thoroughly before any ruling." A silence heavier than stone filled the room. Everyone knew this was just the calm before an emotional, game-changing storm. Hours passed. The courtroom hummed with anticipation, whispers bouncing off the walls like echoes in a canyon. Trump's arrogance had dissipated, replaced by a rigid tension. His usual entourage seemed unsure, eyes darting at every glance from Ketanji. Ibrahim sat quietly, listening as Ketanji posed meticulous questions. Each one exposed contradictions in Trump's defense, slicing away layers of his narrative. A faint click, the sound of a pen dropping, made everyone startle. Even the most seasoned reporters exchanged knowing glances. Tension was peaking. Then, a twist no one expected. A junior assistant on Trump's team accidentally revealed a private conversation where Trump admitted he never anticipated facing someone like Ibrahim, brave, calm, and unshakable. Gasps echoed. Even Trump's allies stiffened. Ibrahim allowed himself a small, hidden smile. The man who had tried to humiliate him had underestimated him completely. Outside, supporters whispered, holding their breath, sensing the shift. And then came the cliffhanger, a sealed envelope handed to Ketanji. She glanced at it, eyes narrowing, a shadow crossing her face. Whatever was inside had the power to rewrite the entire courtroom story. Everyone leaned forward, hearts racing. The envelope's seal broke with a crisp snap. Ketanji carefully unfolded its contents, a series of emails and messages directly linking Trump to the smear campaign. The evidence was undeniable, irrefutable, and shocking. Trump's face drained of color. His usual bravado had evaporated completely, leaving only tension and disbelief. Every word in the documents hit like a hammer, echoing through the hushed room. Ibrahim's pulse surged, not from fear, but from a quiet, overwhelming vindication. Each message confirmed what he already knew. Truth was his strongest weapon. The courtroom smelled faintly of ink and polished wood, every breath taut with anticipation. Then, unexpectedly, Trump's voice cracked. This isn't fair." His vulnerability was startling. The man who had tried to destroy Ibrahim's reputation was now visibly shaken, a rare human moment in front of the world. Ketanji's eyes softened toward Ibrahim, acknowledging the courage and strength that had brought him here. But before the final ruling, she paused, letting tension build, then said, "There is one final factor to consider." A collective shiver ran through the room. Everyone knew the next moment could change everything. Ketanji held the envelope's contents carefully, her eyes scanning each line. The courtroom was utterly silent, every person waiting for her to speak. Trump's hands shook slightly as he gripped the edge of the table, the color drained from his face. Ibrahim felt his chest tighten, not from fear, but from anticipation. Every step he had taken, every struggle he had endured, had led to this moment. The air smelled faintly of paper and anticipation, sharp and almost electric. Then Ketanji spoke. "This evidence changes the narrative completely. Intent to defame has been clearly demonstrated." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Trump opened his mouth, then shut it again. He seemed almost paralyzed by the weight of reality. Unexpectedly, a small sound, someone coughing in the gallery, echoed loudly, breaking the tension for just a moment. But it was enough to reveal Trump's unease. His usual arrogance cracked, and the world could see vulnerability where there had been none. Ibrahim's gaze remained steady. He felt a mix of triumph, anxiety, and the tiniest thread of compassion for the man who had tried to ruin him. Ketanji leaned forward, preparing to deliver the next line that would shock the world. The judge's voice cut through the room, firm and unwavering. Given the evidence presented, and the clear intent demonstrated, the court finds the matter warrants serious recompense. Gasps erupted from reporters and spectators alike. Trump's smirk had disappeared completely. His jaw clenched, a bead of sweat rolling down his temple. He had underestimated Ibrahim in every way, and the consequences were now unavoidable. Ibrahim felt his pulse surge. Every insult, every smear had led to this vindication. Yet beneath his triumph was a sudden, unexpected emotion. The weight of the ordeal, the exhaustion of fighting not just for himself, but for truth itself. Suddenly, a security alert outside the courtroom made the air tense. The sound of rushing footsteps echoed through the hall. The gallery stirred, whispers of uncertainty filling the room. Ketanji paused, eyes narrowing. Before finalizing the damages, there is one more consideration. The court collectively leaned forward, hearts pounding. What she revealed next would be the twist no one saw coming. Even Ibrahim's steady heart skipped a beat. A hush fell as Ketanji revealed the unexpected twist. Documents showed Trump had attempted to bribe multiple media outlets to amplify his smear. The room seemed to hold its breath, stunned by the audacity and clear proof of misconduct. Trump's face paled further. His hands fumbled with notes, his composure shattered. For the first time, he looked genuinely afraid. The courtroom smelled faintly of fear and polished wood, every detail amplified in the tense silence. Ibrahim felt an unusual rush of emotion, vindication mixed with awe at the sheer scale of the moment. The man who had tried to humiliate him publicly was now exposed completely, powerless before the weight of truth and justice. Then, a whisper from one of Trump's aides revealed another shocking layer. Trump had tried to destroy evidence, but Ibrahim's team had anticipated it. The revelation made everyone gasp. Ibrahim's heart pounded, but he remained calm. His journey had been harrowing, but the truth had prevailed. Ketanji's eyes met his, her subtle nod conveying respect and acknowledgement. Yet the final decision, how much Trump would pay, and the repercussions that would ripple worldwide, still hung in the air like a storm about to break. The courtroom was electric. Every eye fixed on Ketanji as she prepared to announce the final ramifications. Trump sat frozen, his face pale, the weight of exposure pressing down on him. Every once bold gesture now seemed small and fragile. Ibrahim's pulse surged. This wasn't just a legal victory. It was a moment of justice for every lie, every smear, every moment he had been doubted. Yet beneath the triumph was a subtle anxiety. Would the world truly recognize the courage it took to fight back? Then, unexpectedly, Trump slumped slightly in his chair. A whisper of remorse, or perhaps fear, crossed his features. The arrogance had vanished entirely, replaced by raw, human vulnerability. It was a shift no one predicted, and the cameras captured it for the world to see. Ketanji's voice cut through the tension. In addition to the damages awarded, measures will be put in place to ensure accountability and transparency for public statements moving forward. The courtroom erupted into murmurs and shuffling papers. Outside, the streets buzzed with anticipation. The rain-slicked asphalt reflected the flashing cameras like fractured mirrors. Everyone watching sensed that history was unfolding, and the story was far from over. As the court adjourned briefly, Trump's aides whispered furiously. He was no longer the untouchable figure he had always projected. Ibrahim, however, remained calm, exuding quiet strength. His every movement conveyed that he had faced far greater storms than media attacks. Then, an unexpected twist. A reporter revealed a leaked recording from Trump, in which he admitted he had underestimated Ibrahim completely. The words hit like a hammer, Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Even some of Trump's closest allies looked stunned. Ibrahim's heart pounded with both triumph and a bittersweet empathy. He had won, yet he understood the weight of being human under scrutiny. The fear, the pressure, the regret. The courtroom smelled faintly of ink and tension, each breath thick with anticipation. Ketanji returned, her gaze piercing. "This case sets a precedent," she said, "not for revenge, but for accountability." The phrase echoed through the hall, a reminder of the moral clarity Ibrahim had fought to uphold. Trump's silence screamed louder than any argument. Ibrahim's supporters held their breath, sensing that the true resolution, the moment that would shock the world, was imminent. The final hearing resumed. Trump's posture was rigid, every muscle tense. The courtroom cameras caught every flicker of emotion, fear, regret, disbelief. Ibrahim's calmness radiated strength, inspiring both supporters and skeptics alike. Then Ketanji revealed the last twist. Trump would not only pay damages, but was mandated to publicly acknowledge the harm he had caused Ibrahim. The words landed like a thunderclap. Even seasoned reporters gasped. Trump's lips pressed into a thin line. A subtle tremor in his voice betrayed vulnerability. Ibrahim felt a rush of emotion, not just triumph, but a deep human connection to the man before him. The power of truth had humbled him, and the world watched the transformation unfold. Outside, the air was thick with anticipation. Rain fell lightly, tapping against the courthouse windows like the drumbeat of destiny. Everyone realized this wasn't just a courtroom battle, it was a moral reckoning. Ibrahim took a deep breath. The storm had passed, yet the echoes of courage, truth, and justice would resonate far beyond these walls. And still, one final moment of revelation was coming, one that no one could predict. The courtroom was tense as Ketanji prepared to deliver the final verdict. Every person leaned forward, breaths caught, eyes wide. Trump's face was pale, his usual bravado gone, replaced by uncertainty and a trace of shame. Ibrahim sat quietly, his hands resting on the table. Inside, his heart pounded, not from fear, but from the weight of the moment. Years of dedication, of standing for truth had led here. Every insult, every attack, had fueled this one, undeniable victory. Then a whisper from the clerk made Ketanji pause. A last-minute message from a major media outlet confirmed that Trump's smear campaign had already been retracted nationwide. The confirmation spread like wildfire, and even Trump's allies exchanged uneasy glances. Ketanji's voice rang out, steady and commanding. Donald Trump is found liable for defamation. He is ordered to pay $1 billion in damages and publicly acknowledge the harm caused to Ibrahim Traoré. The courtroom erupted. Trump slumped in his chair, shock and disbelief etched on his face. Ibrahim's supporters wept openly. The storm of tension broke, replaced by an overwhelming sense of justice and vindication. Outside, a crowd of supporters cheered as news of the verdict spread. Cameras captured Ibrahim stepping out into the daylight, the rain-slicked streets glistening around him. The air smelled faintly of wet asphalt and hope. Ibrahim paused, looking at the faces of those who had supported him tirelessly. He felt an unexpected surge of emotion, a mix of relief, triumph, and deep gratitude. He had not only defended his name, but also reminded the world that truth and courage could prevail. Trump, meanwhile, remained a stark figure on the news screens, humbled and visibly shaken. The man who had tried to humiliate him was now forced to confront the consequences of his actions in the public eye. Ketanji's decision resonated far beyond the courtroom. It was a lesson in accountability, justice, and the power of unwavering integrity. Ibrahim's journey, once threatened by humiliation, had become a symbol of hope for anyone facing insurmountable odds. And yet, as the rain continued to fall, a subtle tension lingered, a quiet reminder that the fight for truth never truly ends. That evening, Ibrahim returned home, exhausted but unbroken. The smell of his office coffee greeted him, familiar and grounding. He allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. The journey had been long, the battles fierce, but the truth had triumphed. Trump's public apology, broadcast on every major network, played quietly on a nearby screen. Ibrahim watched silently, a faint nod acknowledging the unexpected human vulnerability he had glimpsed. It was a moment of closure, powerful, yet quietly humbling. Supporters and allies flooded social media with messages of admiration. But Ibrahim knew the most important victory was personal. His integrity remained intact, his courage tested and proven beyond doubt. The final shot. Ibrahim standing by his window, rain streaking the glass, eyes steady and determined. The world had witnessed a man defend not just his name, but the principle of truth itself. And then he smiled faintly, turning back to his work. The storm had passed, but life and challenges would continue. If you've been inspired by Ibrahim Traoré's courage, hit like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to see more stories of resilience and justice. Share this story to remind the world that truth always wins.